Good afternoon, everybody, and we have a full audience watching tonight, so our TV audience will be down. I just said the ratings. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Good afternoon. This is our October 15th meeting. The City of Belleville acknowledges we are meeting today on a traditional territory. We recognize and honor the historic relationship of the Indigenous peoples to this land and acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and natural resources contained within. We recognize First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who call Belleville their home and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with them. We look forward to fostering a path towards reconciliation and show respect for the Indigenous peoples who first lived and currently live on the land where we all now reside together. I will call this meeting to order. We are all present, and please remain standing for a moment of reflection from Deputy Clerk Katie McPherson.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only with what will promote good government. May we bring to council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Please be seated. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. I have one is bylaw 2024-172, clerk, and I will get that in writing for you. And I'll have Councillor Thompson read that bylaw when we come to bylaws. I need a motion on regular council meeting minutes of September 23rd, 24, and regular in-camera meeting minutes of September 23rd, 24, special council meeting minutes of October 2nd, 24, and the special in-camera meeting minutes of October 2nd, 24. Moved by Councillor Enright Miller, Councillor Chatton. Discussion, all in favor? Carried. Deputations. We have Dr. Alison Lee on behalf of the Dr. James Lee Collop Memorial Committee here to make a deputation to council.
Do I get to start over? Start over. Okay. Thank you very much, Your Worship, and members of council. I have a very special honor today in introducing a guest in our city, a very distinguished person in Dr. Alison Lee, who has come to take part in some very special celebrations on this occasion of a Belleville boy who became one of the greatest scientists the world has ever seen, and that's Dr. James B. Collop. He was co-discoverer of insulin and so much more, as Dr. Lee will probably comment on. You may recall back in 2012, it was this council, and I believe Mayor Ellis was in the chair, when the city council declared November 20th of every year to be Dr. Collop Day in Belleville, in perpetuity. And then in 2021, the Dr. Collop Committee, of which I'm a member and other members are here, along with the city, developed a magnificent monument and parquet to Dr. Collop along the waterfront trail. Very proud of that. It's a very beautiful achievement. So Dr. Lee is here. She's speaking at a number of places in the city, at Albert College, at Loyalist College, and tonight at the Belleville Public Library, making a presentation about Dr. Collop on the month of his birth. So Dr. Lee is a distinguished historian of science and medicine, author of a number of learned books on this, and particularly the book on J.B. Collop, Development of Medical Research in Canada, which is, again, the biography of Collop and his discoveries and the whole field. So she will, as I say, I have the honor and privilege of welcoming you to the city, and I ask you to speak to you.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction, Richard. Your Worship, and counselors, it's a great privilege for me to speak to you today about one of Belleville's own, Dr. James Collip. Do I? There we go. Dr. Collip, oops. Did I turn it off? Oh, there we go. Okay. Dr. Collip had a long and distinguished career in medical research, and the Canadian Medical Hall of Fame describes him as one of the greatest minds in Canadian medicine. What he's best remembered for is his role as one of the 4 co-discoverers of insulin in 1921 to 22, along with Frederick Banting, Charles Best, and J.J.R. MacLeod. And this achievement immediately made the difference between life and death for people with diabetes and was recognized as a tremendous medical breakthrough. In October 1923, just 1 year after their discovery, the Nobel Prize in Medicine or Physiology was awarded to Banting and MacLeod for the discovery of insulin. And this was not only Canada's first Nobel Prize, but it was also the fastest a Nobel Prize has ever been awarded. And this record will probably never be beaten. When Banting learned of his award, he immediately said that he wanted to share his prize money with his student assistant, Charles Best. And Professor MacLeod, who was the head of the lab, announced that he would follow suit by sharing half of his award money with Collip to indicate that Collip's role had been equal to that of the others. So today I'd like to tell you a little bit about how Collip came to play such an important role in this momentous discovery and share why I think it's so worthwhile that we continue to celebrate his memory. Collip, who was known to his family and friends as Bert, was born right here in Belleville in 1892. He was the child of Mahala Vance, a schoolteacher, and James Dennis Vance, a florist. His grandfather ran a market garden, so in his early years, Bert earned money selling vegetables from a horse and cart, probably just behind this building. And his father grew a business to become one of the principal florists in the district with a sales room at 265 Front Street. And the interesting thing is the qualities that characterized his life were forged here during his childhood in Belleville. The virtues of decency and integrity and ambition and collaboration, and underlying all of that, a lot of hard work and quiet humility. He was famous for his restless nature, and he was especially fond of driving, as we can see in this early picture from 1915. But he developed a keen interest in chemistry, so he went to the University of Toronto at the age of 15 and enrolled in a program in physiology and biochemistry. And he became so inspired by research that he decided to go into graduate studies, and he earned his PhD in biochemistry and became a professor at the University of Alberta in Edmonton. But in 1921, he was on sabbatical leave at the University of Toronto when he was asked to join a group who were investigating the use of pancreatic extracts in the attempt to treat insulin. Now, Collip has sometimes been called the forgotten man of insulin, and that's because so many textbooks and popular accounts of insulin say that it was discovered by Banting and Best alone. But careful historical studies have shown that Collip was the one who made the critical breakthrough, which he did on January 19, 1922, when he purified insulin sufficiently that it could be used in treating people with diabetes. Up till that date, Banting and Best had done some very good work, but they did not accomplish anything that other researchers had not already done. It was Collip who really took the team past that finish line. And what's really admirable about Collip is that despite what disappointment he might have felt about not getting as much recognition, is that he took what he learned from this experience with insulin and parlayed it into becoming one of the most prolific researchers of his generation. He made discovery after discovery in hormone science, including parathyroid hormone, and many pituitary and placental hormones. And for many years at McGill University, he led this huge flourishing team that produced work of international significance in hormone science. And then after that, during the Second World War, he became sort of a senior statesman in medical science. He provided leadership and coordination in wartime research, and then in the beginnings of federal funding of medical science. And he ended his career as the Dean of Medicine at the University of Western Ontario. So for many years, the insulin discovery has been associated only with the names of Banting and Best. But through the work of historians such as Michael Bliss and the efforts of groups such as your own Dr. James Bertram Memorial Committee here in Belleville, I think we are starting to change that narrative. In the century since its discovery, of course, insulin has gone on to save the lives of hundreds of millions of people with diabetes around the world. And today it continues to save the lives of 150 to 200 million people every day around the globe, including people in this very room. But when it comes to affording credit, unfortunately, much work still needs to be done. Only last week, when the University of Toronto announced that the Nobel Prize had been awarded to their Professor Geoffrey Hinton for his work on artificial intelligence, this is what their announcement said. Sir Frederick Banting and J.J.R. MacLeod won a Nobel Prize for their work with Charles Best in 1923. So again, you can see we have our work cut out in making sure that Collip's key contribution is not forgotten. City Council declared Dr. Collip Day in Belleville in 2013, and 3 years ago, as Richard mentioned, the Collip Memorial Committee unveiled and dedicated this beautiful Collip Monument and Memorial Gardens on Bayshore Trail. And last month, I was invited to Aberdeen, Scotland, where Aberdonians are also recovering the memory of their own native son, the other forgotten hero of insulin, who is Professor J.J.R. MacLeod. They've actually unveiled a statue of MacLeod in Duthie Park, and it has since become a favorite stopping point for tourists. And what I find especially touching about this memorial is that people come from far and wide, especially people with diabetes, to pay tribute to this man who is one of the people who has kept them alive day to day. And I was really privileged to join a ceremony unveiling a set of plaques that marked all four discoverers together, Banting, Best, Collip, and MacLeod, showing that they had an equal role in this discovery. We had a wonderful weekend of lectures, festivities that were attended by civic officials and many members of the public. So I'm so pleased that Belleville continues to celebrate Dr. Collip Day every November 20th. This year, the Belleville Public Library will be inviting the public to drop in to enjoy a piece of birthday cake in celebration of Dr. Collip. And I would welcome and invite the City Council to consider ways you might contribute to this or other special initiatives to pay tribute to this important Belleville hero. With his dedication, humility, and record of remarkable achievement, I believe Dr. Collip can continue to inspire new generations here in Belleville and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the deputation? Seeing none, I need a motion to receive. Councillor Brown, Councillor Chatton, all in favor? Carried. Thank you for the deputation and the education. Next, we have Amy Rushlow, Enabling Accessibility Fund. Youth Accessibility Leader, Trenville Small Business Center, will be here to make a deputation. Good afternoon. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Ellis and Council, for inviting me to speak about the Enabling Accessibility Fund today. My name is Amy Rushlow. I'm the Office and Communications Administrator at the Small Business Center. I'm not sure if this is going. There we go. I'm the Office and Communications Administrator at the Small Business Center, as well as I have taken on the role of a Youth Accessibility Leader for 2024. With that comes the responsibility of helping businesses and community organizations apply for the Enabling Accessibility Fund. This is a $12,000 grant to support projects across Canada that improve accessibility, remove barriers, and enable Canadians with disabilities to participate and contribute to their communities and the labor market. There are 2 streams of funding that you can apply for. The first being the workplace accessibility stream, and this is to improve accessibility and safety in workplaces for current and future employees with disabilities and to obtain and maintain employment. Second is the community accessibility stream, and this project is this is for projects that enhance accessibility in community facilities and venues where programs and services are offered by removing barriers and increasing accessibility so that people with disabilities can participate in their communities. It is important to note that the grant may not be used only to benefit one particular individual, but for the entire workplace or community as a whole. You are eligible to apply for this grant if you are a not-for-profit organization, a small business with less than 99 full-time employees, an Indigenous organization, or a municipality. Unfortunately, you are ineligible to apply if you are a federal or provincial government, public healthcare facility such as a hospital or a public school. For each unique 9-digit CRA business number or registration, organizations are only permitted to submit 1 application per stream. Here is a list of past projects that have been done in the community from previous years. Some examples are aquatic wheelchairs, raised garden beds, mobile recording studios, accessibility ramps, FM loop systems, voice recognition softwares, audiovisual softwares, etc. The eligible costs are materials and supplies, labor for renovations, construction or retrofit of related activities, assistive technology and adaptive technology, purchase of adaptive sports equipment, accessible accessories and furniture, web design for accessibility, and shipping costs and taxes. Here is a representation of past recipients. You can see at the bottom of the screen that $589,281 have been allocated in the Bay of Quinte since 2019. Applications are screened on a first-come, first-served basis, so it's important to get your applications in as soon as possible. I should mention that the deadline to apply is November 1st at 3 p.m., so that's coming up really quickly. So if you know of anyone that could benefit from this opportunity, please encourage them to contact me as soon as possible. The process to apply, you will contact me. My contact information is on the next slide, where I will then supply you with the application and applicant guide. All the instructions are outlined in the guide. You will send it back to me with question 24 left blank. You will need to include quotes and pictures in your application. I will fill out question 24 and give any feedback that I have. I will then send it back to you, and you can submit. So it is a bit of a lengthy process with the deadline coming up really quickly. It's important to get those in as soon as possible. Here's my contact information. I can be reached at 613-961-0590, extension 410, or amy.rushlow@smallbusinessctr.com. I should also mention that there is a YouTube video posted. It's called the Enabling Accessibility Fund 2024 Call for Proposals. If you just search that into YouTube, you will see this presentation along with, I'll be walking you through it and explaining everything. You can also find out more information on the Small Business Center website under the Programs and Services tab. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Any questions for the deputation? Councillor Enright Miller?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have some comments, and thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Councillor Kelly and I were fortunate enough to meet Amy. She was at our last accessibility meeting, and we've invited her here today just to give an overview of this grant that is available for businesses. And I just wanted to sort of piggyback with some more information of why this is so important. The AOTA compliance is important for all businesses in Ontario. The Ontario government has set its goal to become completely accessible by 2025. And if your organization, our businesses out here in Quinte, do not live up to the AOTA standards, it could be trouble. So what is the AOTA compliance? The Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act has created a set of standards around people with disabilities having fair and equal access to private and public spaces, organizations, and buildings. These laws or standards apply to both the private and public sector and require AOTA compliance by all organizations, including our city. And we are almost there, City Hall. The AOTA standards are broken down into 5 areas of doing business, and that is employment, as Amy has pointed out, customer service, information and communication, transportation, design of public spaces. And within each one of these are a set of other standards which the organizations have to meet. The Accessibility for Ontarians and Disabilities Act also requires organizations to provide training to staff and volunteers, develop an accessibility policy, create a multi-year accessible plan and update it every 5 years, consider accessibility in procurement and when designing self-service kiosks. As 2025 is fast approaching, we will keep getting information out through our Accessibility Committee website and through people like Amy to keep reminding the public of the requirements being implemented through the AOTA standards. So thank you, Amy, for letting us know about this grant that's available to businesses, and we hope they can get their applications in before November 1st. The application is not a hard process.
No, it's very easy.
It's very easy, and you may be a very busy girl.
That's
So
okay.
hopefully the viewing public will see that there is potential grant money out there to put buttons on your front doors, enhance your ramps, for being accessible for our community. So thank you
For
very
sure.
much for that.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Thompson?
For coming and the money, can retailers apply to that to make their business accessible, like a front door or ramps or anything?
That's correct. So any of like the push buttons, the automatic doors, anything like that, businesses who are eligible to apply are not-for-profit organizations, small businesses with less than 99 full-time employees, municipalities, and Indigenous organizations.
And how much, is there a top limit they can apply for?
The maximum is $12,000.
Okay, can you, if I may ask, can you get a hold of the director of the DBIA and get some of that information to her for the next meeting?
For sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Kelly?
Thank you, through you, Mayor, and thanks very much, Amy, for the presentation. You did a great job last week, too, with the Accessibility Committee. This is, a real enhancement for our community, as Councillor Enright Miller, who's the chair of the Accessibility, spoke to. We've got till 2025, and if my math is correct, that's about 14 weeks away.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and you mentioned 5 years the program's been running, 67 successful programs or
Right.
enhancements to our community for accessibility. And I think of one of the activities, groups that meet at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center in Belleville. It's the Boccia Club. When they started, there was 5 members, and it's a real challenge for families to get around, and they're buying soccer balls or sports equipment, and I know that can be covered through the grant if they're successful. So we see this at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center. There was a group of 5, now it's over 20, and Colleen DeMille's behind that here in the city of Belleville, and that's a real successful program. And it's programs like this. You mentioned close to $600,000 in the last 5 years. So I really encourage people in our area, whether you're a small business or community organizations, we have until 2025 to make huge gains in our accessibility for everybody to be a more inclusive community. And this grant can go a long way. So thank you for your presentation today. And last week you did, nailed it too. Well
Thank
done.
you, Councillor.
Motion to receive, Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Roulette, all in favor, carried.
Thank you so much. My name is Mabit Barleta, and I am the founder of Bridging Communities. I want to start by saying thank you to our mayor, to the city councilors, the engineering department, city staff, and my family, volunteers, and crocheters. I also want to thank you, our supporters, who helped us get Bridging Communities crochet project off the ground. As you can see, we started with about 5 organizations who helped us, including the city of Belleville, but we have other organizations who have joined us. Okay, so this is where my inspiration came from. When I was teaching in China, I had the opportunity to learn about Filipino artist Pasita Abad's painted bridge. Then my family and I went to visit the bridge in Singapore. I loved it. I also enjoyed how people in Singapore and tourists were engaged in visiting and taking photos. After we returned to Canada, I became involved in community art in the schools. I wanted to create a large community art installation and thought about the Bay Bridge. But it turned out the Bay Bridge is provincial, and the city suggested that we do the Upper Front Street Bridge. Of course, I was very happy. I love the shape, and that is downtown. But it turned out that in covering the downtown bridge, the size doubled. So our crochet squares numbers did too. I started to apply for grants and did my research. Thanks to our city's arts and culture grant and grants from the Ontario Arts Council, I went to elementary and high school and started giving workshops. As you can see, I have been in many schools, many students starting from scratch. We teach I gave the workshop for many, many students, and this is a high school student. And, and we celebrated with them, and as you can see, I have been in many, many schools. Then I added community crochet circles in spaces from Trenton to Picton, Belleville, and Kingston. So sometimes we meet in people's houses. This is where I had my workshop in Kingston. This is also in Kingston. And in July, we had our crochet picnic where all groups were invited. Our crochet circles and volunteers are growing, and so are the number of our crochet squares. We are here to let you know about Bridging Communities and our next steps in gathering support to reach our goal and cover the bridge with crochet color work. I want to invite everybody, like who came today, could you please come? So I invited few people to come today and to let you see what we are doing. So just take it out. Oh, these are fabulous. Very cool. And we want to show you, this is Shirley's work. And we put this together so you can have an idea when we wrap this. Okay, so here we go. So when we wrap, this is going to be colorful. Yeah. So, thank you.
I'd like to order a sweater in that exact pattern.
There you go. So we are, we are here today to show you where we are, and we're really looking forward to have more of this, so we can get to our goal. So, for example, our next step is contacting retirement homes and other groups to participate. So we are looking for more crocheters, and we're looking for sponsors, as you can just see. And we want to make this out and make it more public. So we would like, we are starting looking for yarn donation. We are just starting GoFundMe to make, find some money. This is all going for the material. So also the other idea we have, and I hope, all of you will help us with this, is we would like to have sponsors from businesses or organizations. So, they will have a pillar, and then we can, they can sponsor that. And we are working with the downtown Belleville business as well. So our hope is that we can combine that with one of the, the downtown festivals.
Well,
And
thank you, very colorful. I have a couple questions before I ask council. You talked about sponsors. Now, how were you going to acknowledge the sponsors?
Okay, so what we are thinking is to create a plaque, so that will temporarily be there as the installation happens.
Okay, and one last question, just curious, why did you pick crochet?
Yeah,
interest question.
I actually, my background is really painting and doing sculpture, but crochet is accessible, and I want to work with many people, because when I go to schools, I teach, and we do, kids make paintings, mixed media, collage, whatever we are doing, we put it on the wall. But, that's not something we could do on the bridge, and I did my, come up with this idea, and I like to do other craft, crocheting and knitting and embroidering. So all that, so I thought crochet is accessible. And also when I did my research, even compared to knitting, crocheting was much stronger. That's why we chose crochet.
Any other questions? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. You actually have explained something that I was observing along Dundas. I'm not sure if anybody has passed by the bridge that covers Bell Creek. On both sides, there are crocheted panels, and I had no idea what it was. And I was thinking, it's very, very colorful, but I was curious is how it was getting there. So was it a test case in terms of putting it on the culvert, or just somebody who was keen?
If it is on Dundas Street,
Yes.
that was my research.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's very colorful, and I know.
I know.
And I notice it every time I
Thank you
drive
so
through
much.
there. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep, that was my research work.
Councillor Thompson?
Quick question. Have you applied to the grant committee for any funding? And if you haven't, there is that avenue of the grant committee that city has, so.
The city, the art and culture.
Yep.
Yep, I have been applying. They have been helping me
Okay,
from the research, but I'm still going to apply this year because we need money for that. Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion to receive, Councillor Brown, Councillor Chatton, all in favor? Carried. Thank you for putting some color into council meeting tonight.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
We have some correspondence tonight. First is a letter from the Belleville Chamber of Commerce. I need a motion that the October 7, 24 letter from the Belleville Chamber of Commerce be regarding the Santa Claus Parade be received and referred to consent item 8B5. Moved by Councilor Wright Miller, Councilor Chatton. All in favor? Carried. Second letter from Brower Homes, that the letter from Brower Homes requesting postponement of development charges for Summit Crest subdivision be received and referred to staff. Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Discussion, all in favor? Carried. Next is a letter from Downtown District BDIA. The request for the waiving of the provision contained in Schedule J, bylaw 2006-140, bylaw to license and regulate, govern certain businesses, prohibiting refreshment vehicles from operating within the downtown businesses improvement area, be approved for the Diwali Food Expo on October 20th, 24, between 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. Moved by Councillor Chatton, second by Councillor Enright Miller. All in favor? Carried. Next, that resolution that council rise and go into committee of the whole to hear and consider reports, passing recommendations, and resolutions with Councillor Millet in the chair. I can't get a mover and a seconder on that one, Chris, so you're not allowed. Councillor Carr, Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor? Carried.
Hopefully this will be easier than the last go-round when I was in this chair and I needed a whip and a chair to handle that one. So. Yeah, the 8A, the agenda shall include under reports items that warrant individual attention from council. And the first item is item 8A1, Black Bear Ridge Village planning process and public consultation, item DEDS 202402. And the resolution reads that council receive the Director of Engineering and Development Services report number DEDS 2024-02 for information purposes. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Carr. Any questions, comments on this? Councillor Carr, Councillor Brown, can you just turn your mic off, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and certainly appreciate the report from the Director. Myself, along with Councillor Brown, have attended the public meetings that the proponent has convened, and they're not legislatively required at this point. It's just in order to inform the public. This is a big initiative and certainly normally outside the scope of what the city would see. I think it's an excellent report too for the public to see the background reports that have to go in and then the consideration that has to occur. But the one thing that I did want to emphasize, because I see it from time to time in public comments online and even in conversation, the City of Belleville, despite the fact that what the province says, you know, in terms of us building homes, we don't build homes. And, you know, I've seen comments in relation to this with homes attached to a resort. The affordability conversation tends to come up. These are market-driven and proponent-driven in terms of building. The City of Belleville, like all municipalities, cannot dictate the affordability level unless it's a direct project that the city's involved in. So I just want to emphasize that as people see this grow, and it is an exciting endeavor for sure that requires a lot of due diligence, and that will be undertaken as outlined in the report, but in no way are we able to control the market in terms of affordability that comes forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Anyone else? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Item 8A2, options to fill vacant council seat for the balance of the 2022 to 2026 term of council. And the resolution reads that council receives staff report DCC 2024-07 entitled Options to Fill Vacant Council Seat for the Balance of the 2022 to 2026 term of council, and that council directs staff to proceed with option 2A to fill the vacant council seat. Mayor Ellis, Councillor Kelly, any, yes, your worship?
I just want to say that, thank the Deputy Clerk for the report. It, I think, pointed us in the right direction. And so the person that this motion is passed, is 2A, would be Margaret Sue off the list. I just wanted to make that clear to public, and I see her in the audience tonight, and there should probably be this quick, so I'll just cut it off there.
Thank you. Could you switch off your mic there, your worship. Anyone else? Counselor Thompson?
Yeah, I'm quite pleased that we're taking option 2A. Last time this come up, we know the schmozzle that we got into, and we don't want to repeat that. And, you know, this person ran for council, come in with a number of votes, just a little shy of the last spot, but this is, in my estimation, the only way to go. And I'm proud of the council if they approve this move and move on to this very quickly. So just a statement I wanted to make. Thank you. Pardon?
Thank you, Counselor Kelly?
No, thank you. We'll get to that vote shortly, Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to appoint the 2A as well. I think, as the mayor mentioned, Margaret Sue is a respected individual in our community, highly involved. She's been a leader in Belleville for many years, and she'll be up and running in no time, and look forward to joining the team.
Anyone else? Seeing none, yes, and we don't want any more schmozzles, do we, Counselor Thompson? No.
Can we have a recorded vote, please?
Recorded vote? Sure. Okay, well, yeah. Oh, we have to make the deputy clerk earn her stripes here tonight, okay.
Last time we did this, we had a tie, last week a couple, so.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think we're in any danger of that tonight, your worship. I'll, at your call, deputy clerk.
Councillor Brown?
Yes.
Your mic.
Apologies. Councillor Carr?
Yes.
Councillor Chatton?
Yes.
Councillor Enright Miller?
Yes.
Councillor Kelly?
Yes?
Councillor Millette?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes, and proud of it.
Mayor Ellis?
This time I'll vote with council. Yes.
The motion is carried.
And I will note that was a unanimous vote. Thank you. Thank you, and welcome, Counselor to be, Ms. Sue. Thank you. Moving right along, item 8A3, Community Emergency Preparedness Grant, Round 2 intake. And the resolution reads that pursuant to the Director of Transportation and Operations Services Report number DTOS 24-7, Community... Thank you, Counselor Thompson. Seconded by Counselor Enright Miller. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Item 8A4, Belleville Employment Land Strategy and Needs Assessment.
Move as read.
Thank you, Counselor Thompson, and a second again by, actually, Counselor Chatton, second. All in favor? Carried. Whoops, sorry. Yeah. No, actually, yes. Questions or comments?
I think we had the pedal to the metal, or somebody must be, have roast beef in the oven or something.
No, it's turkey.
Leftover turkey.
Leftover turkey, there you go.
Leftover
and that
turkey.
gravy, too.
Okay.
Yep.
Stuffing.
Go
Anyway.
ahead, Counselor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's always interesting when you're in the chair, that's for sure. Just speaking to the employment land strategy and needs assessment, certainly as we build our community, it's important that we're looking ahead and have this framework. But I also want to just comment on the fact that we can't lose sight of the need for workers. And so in this report, it talks about the fact that Hastings County Census Division, which includes the city of Belleville, interprovincial migration for the large urban centers within the greater Golden Horseshoe accounted for 46% of intraprovincial migration between 2015 and 2021. And municipalities within Eastern Ontario accounted for 25% of interprovincial migration to Hastings County. We all know we have people moving here, but the report goes on to say that it's anticipated that a large share of residents migrating to Belleville will be younger working age residents, given local economic growth opportunities across a range of export and service-based sectors, as well as some out commuting within the commuter shed. So we're going to be having workers move here, so it puts an ever-increasing demand on housing. So I think it's important that developers and builders remain cognizant of this employment lands growth plan, as the community will need housing built faster than ever before. And it's also well known, and there's lots of studies out there that say that younger working age residents cannot afford high priced housing and simply can't afford or can't qualify for the mortgages that are being faced today. So affordability will be key. Finally, I just want to make a point that the report notes that as the city looks to expand employment lands and make them marketable for business attraction, the need for the Belleville East Arterial Road and 401 interchange is a prominent theme throughout that report. And I recall that in the spring of 2002, the MPP for the Bay of Quinte announced that the Ontario government was committed to working with the city on the Bear as well as interchange as part of the 401 expansion. I know our new MPP for Bay of Quinte understands the critical nature of this interchange. He sat in this chamber and more recently campaigned on it during the by-election. And if the government wants the province to be open for business, then the Ontario government needs to fulfill this commitment sooner than later as we continue being one of the fastest growing communities in Eastern Ontario. So that interchange is critical as we continue to expand our employment lands. So affordable housing is key. Builders and developers, pay attention. And Ontario government, we need you to build that interchange. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. In reviewing the Watson report, I found it quite interesting in terms of where this is related to the land itself in terms of where our growth potential exists and to discuss where we need to go in the future. But it was interesting to see that the number one sector, literally 3 times all the other sectors, was in the health and social services industries. I believe it was 1,836 over the course, as compared to just over 500 in the other industries. So I think my question for staff would be, in looking at the strategic employment lands, is given the high growth in this particular sector, is there consideration given for some of the focus on infill space, where you wouldn't necessarily see a big plant, but you would see more so in terms of medical type scenarios? So my question, are we looking at other infill space?
I'll direct your question to Director Ashton.
Through the chair to you. Well, this might be something Alicia as well could speak to, but I think we're always looking at ways to sort of improve our medical services. So, for instance, in the last zoning bylaw update, although it's subtle and it might not necessarily speak to complete industry sort of development, we, updated our zoning bylaw to allow for medical offices that weren't previously allowed in commercial zones to be allowed. One of the things, and probably Alicia is probably better to speak to this, is now that we have this report in place, we can look at strategies of how to promote infill development. So like you said, sort of that might require smaller lands, but could tack on to some of the vacant lands that are attached to some of these industries. So that we'll be developing strategies, or that would be through Alicia's office. But I think this was a good document to sort of have that sort of basis to move forward to develop strategies for each of the sectors. And I think that's what Alicia is working on in her role as well. But I don't want to speak for Alicia if you had something else.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. I will take that as a lateral pass to Manager of Economic and Development Services, Alicia McGuire. Ms. McGuire?
Thank you, Director Ashton, and through the chair to Councillor Brown. So in the report, the recommendation does include next steps in terms of exploring where future employment areas we could look at as a city. So our department will be bringing forward a report in November addressing that, and part of that work, or part of the recommendations, will be looking at things like gap analysis and ways that we can incorporate support services into those zones. So stay tuned.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Item 8A5, Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund application. And the resolution reads that the Myers Pier remediation and Clifford Sunny Belch Park Phase 3 development projects be pre-approved for the 2025 capital budget, and that council approves the submission of the Myers Pier remediation and Clifford Sunny Belch Park Phase 3 development projects to the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund as outlined in the Accounting Coordinator Report number AC 2024-08 and referred to That's it. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Chatton, Councillor Enright Miller. Any questions or comments on this item? Councillor Brown.
My question, thank you, Chair. My question to the Director of Finance. In the report, it marks that part of the required documents for this application, applicants must include a council endorsement or resolution. Is that the same thing as saying pre-approval into a capital budget?
Through the chair to Councillor Brown. It wouldn't necessarily mean the same thing as a pre-approval. You could endorse it, but as a matter of good practice, if you're endorsing a project that we're going to make application for, it's important that we have the funding for the other 50%, in this case, available and ready for that project to move forward. So we have recommended the pre-budget approval there to make sure that when or if it's approved, we've got that approval in hand.
And if I may, and I apologize, I've actually gone through the capital budget draft, but it's not top of mind. There are so many numbers. And so in terms of how these two the two that are included in the application, is it 100% of the funding in the draft budget that's out now, or did we assume that we would be approved for the grant? Assume is a bad word, but did we project that we would apply for this grant?
Through the chair to Councillor Brown, that's a good question. In this case, sometimes we will make funding contingent so that we would apply the grant funding associated with it. In fact, in the other application we identified, that would be the case, and the project would not move forward without the grant funding. This was fully funded in advance through the capital budget, so we have city funding associated with these projects already, and if they are approved and we get a transfer payment agreement, we'll update the funding to replace it with grant funding. Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Thompson.
So the funding that we're asking for Myers Pier, what's that funding going to do down in Myers Pier? Because we all know that the extent of the problems down there, or the extent of the damage, what's the 1.2 million going to do for Myers Pier? Okay. I guess because Dean's not here.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, I'll start the initial, answer the initial question, and then Director Ashton may want to talk about the EA. So the proposed capital budget for Myers Pier would include a medium-term solution for the pier, which is the pedestrian bridge and bringing the utilities up above the water. The longer-term solution requires the waterfront master plan update, which would include the longer-term solution, which also includes the environmental assessment that would need to take place prior to all of that happening.
So, will this take away the barriers from going onto the Myers Pier, or is they going to stay there? So does this just get more safety for pedestrian walking, and that's it?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson. So as council is aware, the Myers Pier has unfortunately had tremendous deterioration over time. In order to moving forward, in order to continue to use it for the public, we would have to basically have an engineering company come and design build a longer-term structure that's a pedestrian bridge, which would be separate. Basically, you're reinforcing the sides, which would still be fenced off. It would not look as horrendous as it does right now, but the pedestrian bridge would be open, and it would be back to a boardwalk that would be safe, and the utilities themselves would be put above grade, so there would be no further risk to any of our underground infrastructure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Item 8A6, ES 2024, new AST and diesel fuel system upgrade serving emergency generator at the Jerry O'Connor Water Treatment Plant.
Moved as written.
Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Item 8A7, traffic calming policy amendment for the inclusion of hamlet areas. And the resolution reads that pursuant to the engineer in training's report, number ENG 2024-07, Council approved the amendment to the traffic calming policy to include hamlet areas as recommended by the Transportation Committee. Councillor Brown, Councillor Carr. Any questions or comments on this item? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I brought this up through Transportation Committee. Residents in an area such as Foxborough, which is more of a built-up area. We're not all farm fields and rolling hills in Ward 2, and there are some hamlets and settlement areas that have built-up areas, and with that has pedestrian traffic and cyclists and whatnot. And residents are certainly in favor of some of the traffic calming they've seen in other areas of our city, and have expressed interest in having an opportunity to have their areas reviewed. So this will at least amend the policy to have their areas reviewed accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Call the vote. All in question, all in favor, sorry, carried. Item 8B, consent items. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. So we will go around the table. Councillor Thompson.
No, thank you.
Councillor
Carr.
No, thank you.
Councillor Enright Miller.
No, thank you.
Councillor Brown.
No, thank you.
Councillor Chatton.
No, thank you, Chair.
Mayor Ellis.
No, thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
No, thank you.
So I will entertain a motion that we accept all items 8B. Can I have a mover? Councillor Carr, Councillor Chatton, all in favor? Carried. Item 8C, Council for Information Matters. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. And we'll go back around the horn the other way. Councillor Kelly.
I'd like to pull 8C2.
8C2, okay.
Oh, 8C2A.
Aha. Thank you.
That was the same I was going to pull, so that's good.
Thank you.
Councillor
No,
Kelly.
thank you, Mayor.
No, thank you.
No, thank you, Chair.
No,
Councillor
thank you.
Brown. Councillor Enright Miller.
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Carr.
No, thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
No, thanks.
Thank you. So, with that, we will pull item 8C2. That is a request to support of the following, Oh, yes, let's do the rest first. That the agenda items be received with the exception of item, 8C2A, Councillor Carr, Councillor Chatton. And 8C2A reads, a request to support the following letters of resolution. The resolution from the Regional Municipality of Waterloo request...
Excuse me, Chair, you didn't call the question on your first motion.
Oh, on the first motion? No, I did not. Thank you for noticing that, Councillor. All in favor? Carried. I am in a hurry to get home to those turkey leftovers, aren't I? Item 8C2A, resolution from the Regional Municipality of Waterloo requesting the provincial and federal governments commit to immediate action to solve the humanitarian crisis that Ontario is facing at the province, officially make homelessness a health policy, and appoint a responsible ministry with appropriate funding and powers as a single point of contact to address the full spectrum of housing needs, as well as mental health, addictions, and wraparound supports, and a task force be struck and provide adequate, sufficient, and sustainable funding to municipalities. And the resolution is from the regional municipality, solve the crisis. Councillor Kelly, Councillor Brown. I will open it. Councillor Kelly, you moved it.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just so everybody's on the same page, the Regional Municipality of Waterloo is hoping that the province will have a ministry directly responsible for some of the challenges that the Chair just spoke to. We see it in our community every day, and I believe not enough is being done. In Ontario alone, there's 235,000, the latest stats, that are homeless. We see it every day in communities in Ontario. Just this year, 1,400 encampments. We know it's a complex social and health issue. This council met twice with Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Michael Tabillo, and we met with the minister back in the spring at the Humane Society. There was a meeting there with a lot of different agencies. And we recently, a couple of months ago, met with the Associate Minister at AMO in Ottawa. And the City of Belleville was, according to the Associate Minister, a leader in the game plan, or the presentation that we had for funding for our community. We know that the Mayor called a state of emergency for the City of Belleville last February. I sit on public health as the councillor of record for the City of Belleville, and they've released their community health profile. It's 63 pages long, and I really encourage anyone in our community that wants to read it, take a look at what the community health profile has to say, and it talks about the opioid crisis, homelessness. Then a partner, many of our agencies that we work with, Canadian Association of Mental Health, Hastings Quinte Paramedic Services, the Belleville and Quinte West Mental Health Support, Public Health, United Way, Loyalist College. They came out with a report, and it was updated last week at Social Services. If you can get your hands on this, worth reading. So the province announced back in August, $378 million for 19 heart hubs. I think it's important that people hear this information. So the province said 19 health hubs. We know 9 are spoken for. 2 will be Indigenous focused. So that takes us down to 8 hubs, heart hubs, for the rest of the province. We know the challenges here in Belleville. We see what's happened in the last month in Kingston. If you follow the news, we know Peterborough has their struggles. Every community has struggles. So who are going to be the 8 communities that are going to benefit from this provincial support? We know the economic impact on our community, our healthcare, our first responders, and public safety. So I'm hoping that everybody will support this letter from the Municipality of Waterloo, the regional approach. I've been on council now for 6 years, and it just seems like we're spinning our wheels with the homeless situation, mental health, addictions. Last month I met, it really irks me when I hear people say, oh, they're all from outside of Belleville. Not true. I met 2 parents last month. One mom sees her daughter 3 or 4 times a week in Belleville. Another father sees his 41-year-old son numerous times in downtown Belleville, and mental health, addictions. So It's time that the province is there to support all the communities in Ontario, not 19. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I fully support the resolution from the municipality of Waterloo. For anybody who's looked at the Heart Hub application, what was a little stunning was the fact that while the province was willing to provide some money for the operational costs of the Heart Hub, it did not include any capital and it didn't include any transitional housing. And I see this the way that the resolution from Waterloo has been faced is they need to understand the full capacity of the housing that is required to put somebody through systems like the bridge or through a detox and then into recovery and then into transitional housing. And then what? And I think there needs to be a really a full understanding of what the expectation is when it comes to the homeless community, not beyond trying to get them to a point of wellness and recovery, but in terms of what the expectation would be for the whole of Ontario to be, once we actually create this housing understanding of what's required. So wholeheartedly I support this. I would be more than pleased to see the province create a real understanding not only of how much money is being spent today in what I would suspect is a very disaggregated view, but if they put it all together under a single ministry, we would have a much better understanding of how much money is available, and we could certainly look for economies of scale that would allow us to move forward on something much more broader than 8 heart hubs across the province of Ontario, the biggest province geographically and in population in Canada. So thank you.
Thank you. Your worship?
Well said, both of you, and I think the only thing I'd like to add to it is this is the biggest social crisis that we're facing in our lifetimes, and it's getting worse, as we all know. The population is growing in every municipality, and the numbers that we're looking at, probably in the next 5 years, it'll double if the province doesn't step up. The thing that scares me, again, it all scares me, but action takes a long time. So we know governments move slow. By the time they get these hubs built up, and that we have to go to housing, and that's the main issue in this resolution to support. If there's no housing, the success rate after detox is about 20%. If there's housing, it's upwards to 80. So we need action, we need it quick, and I'm glad to see council support on this resolution.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, and again, with everybody on this one, I personally don't think the government realizes the whole problem that exists. I really don't. If they knew the problem exists, they'd be doing something about it. And it's not just provincial government. The feds have to come in on this too, because this is a Canada-wide problem. Housing, homelessness, drug addiction. This is not just Ontario. This is a feds too. And as much as we jump on the provincial government, and I don't think they realize the problem it is, otherwise they'd be doing more about it, but we need both governments in on this to solve this problem. This can't be solved by one government.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, you underfund community mental health, and these are provincial government decisions over successive governments, and you underfund community housing. This is the result. You know, a lot of drug addiction, and I guess you have to ask the question is, why do people do drugs? Obviously, there's the recreational component and all the rest of it. But really and truly, the folks that are on the street struggling are trying to cope. And at the end of the day, when they don't have a place to live, this is how they cope. And so, you know, we've heard it time and time again. The mayor has said it, housing first, that is critical. It wasn't too long ago that Hastings County came, or the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus came and presented a 7-and-7 plan. And we haven't really heard anything else about it. You know, I really truly think at some point we as a council need to let Hastings County know, and Community Human Services know, that we need to at least develop a capital plan in order to put forward a plan that says, how can we house the 3,800 families that are on a wait list? Because if we don't stop that, we're going to continue to have people falling off the housing spectrum, and I know many of my colleagues that sit on that committee know that. But if we want the provincial government and the federal government to fund housing first, we as municipalities need to present a plan. And you know, we're talking astronomical dollars here. I think maybe if the provinces use some of the money, they want to build a tunnel over, or underneath the 401, would be a good start maybe to divert the money here versus that. But the reality is that unless we have a plan, each municipality, it's easy for the provincial and federal government to just say, well, we're not moving. Whereas if we have a capital plan that says this is what we want to do, so we designate land, we come up with a plan as to where we're going to build or concepts and chip away, or even better yet, put the 3,800 families conceptually in a place, then it's much easier for us as municipalities to not only then support each other in these calls to action, but actually have a plan that says to the provincial and federal government, it's time to step up. And so, you know, I think that's something that we really need to consider. City of Belleville, but in partnership with Hastings County, is develop that capital plan. And yes, the figures are going to be scary and probably and definitely unreachable as to what we can do with our limited finances. But if we're serious about really tackling this, we have to present that plan to them. And housing is the first step. A lot of the folks, you know, and we're in this meeting now, we're in a torrential downpour. Imagine being on the street right now trying to find shelter. We're all fortunate to have a home. And so, you know, as a result, people are coping in horrendous conditions. And in a first world country, we shouldn't be faced with these problems. And so, you know, I put that out there to my colleagues that sit on community and social services that why doesn't Hastings County develop this plan, bring it forward, get our endorsements at each municipality, and present it collectively to provincial and federal governments to say this is the money we need in order to fill this project and get 3,800 families that are on a wait list a place to live, and stop this continuation of people falling off. You know, affordability continues to be a problem. You know, we see what the market is, and the market wants to get the maximum dollar, always. And even on a resale of a house, you know, it's funny, I watch the real estate market, and everybody wants top dollar. But as you try to achieve top dollar on your home, if you've got children or if you've got grandchildren, you're raising the bar of that attainability of housing, because the market keeps raising. So as the market keeps raising here, we're going to have more and more people falling off. And this 3,800 homes on the wait list for Hastings County, that's grown. And you know, as the mayor says, things will double. That number's going to continue. And so, you know, while I think it's good that we're going to get the message out there, and I was just on the solvethecrisis.ca, and I encourage the public to fill out that form, and this is an initiative from the Ontario Big Mayors Caucus. But we really need to come up with a concrete plan to then challenge the provincial and federal government with funding. Thank you.
Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Chair. I totally support the letter, and I just hope these, the support that we give as municipalities for these letters that don't sit on desks. And we really need to band together, I think, as municipalities to see what we can do. Councillor Carr's idea of having a plan, 100%. I think we need to go with a plan. I just wanted to bring something up. On the Accessibility Committee, we've been touring some of the parks around town. And what I'm hearing as we tour the parks is, what do we do with the people that are sleeping in their cars here at night? So we have the homeless that don't have anywhere to go, but we also have the working poor that are sleeping around the city of Belleville. And it just about broke my heart, you know, and I said, we let them park there. You know, what do we do? It's a problem. And I think we all know the problem exists. And I know we all around this table support anything we can do to solve this problem, but it takes more than just us, so agreed. Go on the website, let your voice be heard, and anywhere you can help, everybody, please help. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? Carried. And item 8, we're just going to go right to 8D. Item 8D, rise and report. Thank you. Motion to rise and report. Councilor Carr, Councilor Thompson, all in favor? Carried. Wheesh.
Great job, Councilor Millet.
I'll get this sorted by the next time I do this, so thanks.
We're gonna move you to the front of the class for such a. Okay, reading of bylaws, first reading, 2024-171, I've got it. 173, 174, 175. Motion, Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Carried. Second reading of bylaws and discussion, 2024-171, 173, 174, 175. Moved by Councillor Kelly, Councillor Enright Miller. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Third reading of bylaws, 2024-171, 2024-173, 174, 175. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Thompson, I will get you to take care of 2024-172.
Okay, first reading for 2024-172, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2024-86, being a bylaw to provide for payment of remuneration benefits for mayor and members of council. 2024-172, one amendment remuneration bylaw. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Millet. All in favor? And second reading for 2024-172. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Kelly, Councillor Enright Miller. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. And third and final reading for 2024-172. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Enright Miller. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. New business, Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Ellis. I got two items under general business. I'd like to request a staff report outlining the amount of carbon tax the City of Belleville has paid out annually since its inception since 2019. Second item is in relation to a motion that Council passed on May 27th, 2024, where we asked you to send a letter to the Premier along with a copy of the staff report then, requesting funds in the amount of $1,081,000, which would have otherwise been collected from the City of Belleville related to residential building activities, and these are consequences of provincial bills, and also about building or putting together a funding program to make us whole as a result of those housing bills. And then also the letter was to be sent to our local MPPs and AMO. Have we received a response from the Premier's office?
It hasn't been a year yet. Good question, Councillor Carr. I sent them an email on June 14th. Past Minister, retired Smith, responded on June 21st, saying that they would put this on the minister's or the Premier's desk, and he appreciates our efforts, and actually it's signed by Jen Kite, his Chief of Staff, and they would ensure that Premier Ford is aware. Next week it'll be 4 months to the date that they've received the letter, and we haven't heard from the Premier.
Okay, if I could, I'd like to make a motion that we send another letter to the Premier in follow-up, and also copy both our MPPs, and I'll speak to that.
Okay, Councillor Millet, Councillor Chatton. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, clearly, obviously, we need a response on this. There's money that's outstanding. This is a fault of the legislation. I know that the big city mayors had already been advocating to the province to be made whole as a result of this. I think we need to add our voice, but I think we need to be persistent. We just can't have the acknowledge your letter and hope that we forget. I can guarantee you I will not forget. The other thing is I think that we obviously need to send it out to the new MPP for Bay of Quinte. Fortunately, he sat here during that May 27th meeting and voted in favor of asking the Premier for that money, acknowledging the fact that the province was selling us short. So he is in the best position, I believe, having supported it, to be able to advocate on our behalf, and I hope he would certainly put in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. All in favor? Any more new business? I have a couple motions I need passed. First, that bylaw number 2024-177, being a bylaw to approve and authorize the execution of an agreement between Vita Medical and the Corporation of the City of Belleville, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 15th day of October 2024. Councillor Brown, Councillor Wright Miller, all in favor? Carried. I think our physician recruiter, Karen Post, has taken a well-deserved day today because we have now the 10th doctor that she's been successfully signed, and I think that she has done a great job, as we all are aware. So I need a bylaw to pass number 2024-178, being a bylaw to approve and authorize the execution of a medical service agreement between Dr. Mong and the Corporation of the City of Belleville, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally pass this 15th day of October 24. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Brown, all in favor? Now, we could give her a standing ovation because she's probably watching on the TV, but yeah, we'll wave at her. So 10 doctors, just incredible. So Karen, you're not here, but congratulations, and she's great. I can't say any more about her than that. So from there, motions, notice of motions, motions. Okay. Councillor Carr.
Thank you. I have a notice of motion pursuant to procedural bylaw 2019-48, section 9.2, committees of council, that City Council establish an ad hoc committee for the purpose of reviewing and recommending amendments to existing bylaws or recommend new bylaws in relation to littering, property standards, clean yards, and other public order and community standard bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by...
That's a notice.
Pardon me?
That's just a notice.
Oh, notice. Okay, sorry, yes. We'll vote on that next meeting. Notice of motions, we have none. Announcements, I think we have a couple. Councillor Chatton.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I have one proclamation. I would like to proclaim October the 25th as Dress Purple Day for Child Abuse Prevention Month. The Dress Purple campaign runs across the province to raise awareness about the important role that individuals and communities play in supporting vulnerable children, youth, and families. Child safety and well-being is a shared community responsibility that every child and youth in Ontario has a right to. This right extends to home, at school, and in the community. It includes the right to culture, race, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. The provincially recognized Dress Purple Day campaign, formerly known as Child Abuse Prevention Month, is marked by a purple ribbon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chatton. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor. Proclamation, the City of Belleville proclaims October 24th as the 24th Annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day. Years of research confirms the benefits of high-quality early learning and child care for young children's intellectual, emotional, social, and physical development and later life outcomes. Child care promotes the well-being of children and responds to the needs of families and the broader community by supporting quality of life so that citizens can fully participate in and contribute to the economic and social life of their community. Trained and knowledgeable registered early childhood educators are the key to quality early years and child care programs, and we thank them for their efforts. Secondly, I'd just like to announce that Councillor Brown and I will be hosting a Ward 2 Town Hall on Wednesday, November 6th at 6:30 p.m. at the Thurlow Community Centre on Harmony Road, where we'll provide an overview of the draft 2025 capital budget, community survey. We'll discuss city business and as well have a question and answer session.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Kelly.
Yes? Two announcements. With the chair of the city's Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee, and was involved in the get-go with the Diwali Festival. It goes this Sunday, Market Square, and starts at 2 o'clock. There'll be lots of food, music, wonderful celebration. Come down and witness all the excitement with our festival. That starts at 2 at Market Square. And the last thing I do today for announcements, I just wanted to give an update on public health merger. You've heard me periodically give the updates. This is an important thing that's happening with public health. It's going to be Hastings, Prince Edward, Kingston, Lennox, and Addington, and Leeds, Grenville. So it's going from 137,000 people that Hastings County represents. With the merger, it'll be over 500,000 people that public health will work. I've been on the transition team now since January. The province asked for the plan or the submission on April the 2nd, and the merger team honored that wish on April the 2nd. The province said that we would hear something back by June, and July came, and now August came. We sent a letter on September the 9th, and we're still waiting to see what's going to happen if this merger is going to take place for the new year, because they want it up and running by January 1st, 2025. So I think it's important to keep the residents informed in some of the committee work that we do. So we're patiently waiting from the province to give us an update on if the merger is going to happen for the 1st of 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Okay, I need a resolution that bylaw number 2024-176, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council in its meeting held on October 15, 24, be read a first, second, and third time and pass this 15th day of October 24. Moved by Councillor Enright Miller, seconded by Councillor Carr. All in favor, carried. And before I do the adjournment announcement, I just want to thank all staff, and I haven't done this, I don't think, since I've been sitting here 2 years, and I do apologize, because it's our staff that make us look good, and the information they give us. You look at this agenda tonight, well done to everybody, and without you, we'd be swimming in the pool with water wings, or probably in the bottom of the pool. So on behalf of council, thank you. I've got you on my Christmas card list, plus presents, but congratulations on the job you do all well, that you do, and the service that you give to our community, because it's about community and to work for a city. You can see your wins in that, and I know you all enjoy working at this this fine organization, and again, thank you very much. And I didn't send you out, Alicia, so adjournment announcement, I did that. Adjournment, okay, moved by Councillor Carr, second by Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor, carried.